Welcome to Control Chaos. My name is Shana. I'm your host. Today we have Mike with us, and he is kind of a jack of all trades, right? So I'm going to let you take it over and kind of talk about what you do, how you got into sobriety, all of that jazz.
Okay. My name is Mike. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is April 1st, 2019. And right now I run two podcasts. I have a Sober Heads podcast where I do sobriety. I have In the Spotlight podcast where I do basketball because I used to be a basketball. I owned a basketball company where we did tournaments, camps, showcases for middle school kids, and it was one of the top ones in the country. And I retired from that when I came into recovery. So I'm gonna take you back from the beginning. I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, single parent household. Um, Never did thought about doing drugs or alcohol while I was in high school. I thought people did that were kind of weird, and I was probably too arrogant to do it. Graduated from Trenton High with honors, played baseball, was a baseball star, played a little bit of basketball. And then my first stop was St. Peter's College in Jersey City. When I got to St. Peter's, it was the first time in my life I faced adversity. The first time I was away from home. The first time I was around people of other races. My high school was predominantly African American. And the first time I struggled academically. I remember getting a 27 on the test, and I remember taking the test to the professor and asking her, was the grade real? And she said, yeah, the grade is real. And at that moment, I went into early depression. Now, they told us at the school that they had um, counselors and stuff like that for freshmen that go through depression and stuff when they first get there. But I was taught in my house what goes in this house stays in this house. So I was taught not to tell my business. So I had went home, and I remember that weekend, uh, knowing Sunday that I was gonna have a talk with my mom. So Sunday came around, and I went to my mom, and I was like, I don't want to go back. And she was like, you ain't got to go back, but tomorrow you're going to get a job. And you know my mom, if I ain't get back on that train, I'll still be hearing about that to this day. So I jump on the train from Trenton to Newark. Then I jump on the path from Newark to Jersey City. And then I get off at Journal Square. And I'm walking down Kennedy Boulevard to my dorm, and I see a liquor store on the left. And I go in the liquor store. And I had looked in the cabinets, looked in the cabinet. I had heard about Mad Dog 2020, and I saw Mad Dog 2020 Red Banana. And it looked good. So I bought it. I snuck it in my dorm. And that night I drank the whole bottle. And that was the first night I drank. And the alcohol did something to me that I didn't have to feel. Like for the first time, I didn't have to feel nothing I was going through. And I thought I found my new best friend. So that first year at St. Peter's, it was depressing. So anytime I felt that way, I just went and got more alcohol. I had a friend that went to.
Time. Hold on a second. Can I just ask real quick? The
Mhm.
first time that you drank was in college and it was really by yourself.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy. I've never really heard
yeah.
that. Usually you hear people drink with other people or but the first
Nah,
time you drank because you wanted to get rid of something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I had a friend that went to Keene College, and he told me I had got in touch with him through a mutual friend, and he told me to transfer to Keene. Now when I transferred to Keene, this is what I thought college was now. Keene, because St. Peter's was in the middle of Jersey City. It ain't really had no campus. It was a commuter school. So after 3 o'clock, everybody went home. The campus was deserted. So now when I get to Keene, Keene is a campus, girls, parties. Like this what I visioned college was when I was young. But I took something with me that would later come a disease. I had already started the alcohol. So now I'm drinking. We party from Thursday to Sunday. Now I'm just drinking and I'm feeling myself loving it. I don't really notice a progression. I'm thinking this is what you're supposed to do when you're in college. And it's just helping me escape more and more. During that time, the rap music changed. It changed from conscious rap when I was younger. Then it went to gangster rap. Now it turned into more of a get money and get chicks and dress nice, like with Biggie and Bad Boy came out around that era. So now I'm trying to be like the rappers was because since I grew up without a father, I didn't know my identity. So now I knew who my dad was, but I didn't know who I was as a man. So I'm trying to mimic the stuff that I see what these rappers do, and I'm gonna live this life. So it took off. I can remember going to parties, drinking 11 White Russians, and just partying with my friends. And I just thought that's the thing you do. I didn't know that it was progressing. I should have known I had a problem when I went into my first discount liquor store. It was called Bayway Liquors. And I went into the liquor store and I was so happy to see all these big bottles of liquor for cheap. And I'm buying all of this stuff and I'm putting it in my trunk. I'm in college and I'm like super happy, like the kids in the Toys R Us store when they used to go down the aisle and put all the toys in as much as they could get. So all of this going on, the alcohol steady progressing. Um, I was always a responsible person, so I graduate from King, get out of college. Now I get my first job, and I'm a student assistant counselor, and I had school-based youth service, and I'm working for a basketball company. So I got two incomes coming in. So now while these incomes coming in, I'm trying to live a life, like I said, like the rappers is doing. I'm not now, but I'm not drinking Majorska and natural ice no more. I'm drinking Heineken, Belvedere, Grey Goose, Hennessy, Remy. I'm living that life. I'm starting to go to clubs with my friends. We getting small VIP access, but the alcohol steady progressing. But I'm living this life. I'm living this life. I meet my first wife. She goes to school. She going to school to be a teacher. I'm going to school to be a teacher. So she eventually moved in with me. Now I got three incomes. Now the partying is going super through the roof. We, me and my friends, we discovered Cancun. So we go out there. We start partying out there. We daddios, coco bongos. We doing all of this stuff. This like around 2000, 2001. Around that time, we just partying it up, but the alcohol stayed progressing. So I had a friend that was a principal at Red Bank Middle School, and he said that he wanted asked us did we want to move down there to work for him at Red Bank Middle School. So we both moved down. We moved to Eatontown, New Jersey, and we both teaching at Red Bank. And once I got down to the shore, that's when my life started to change for the worse. Now I'm with him, and part of the deal was he was like, "He'll help me get tenure if I just go out and party with him." So now the partying is going to a whole nother level. It's off the hook, and I had my first face with death. Me and him went to a party in Trenton. He was from Trenton also, and we was on our way home from the party, and both of us we ain't had no seatbelts on. We was drinking and smoking, and he had a Land Rover which was top heavy back then, and he driving down 195 and he almost rear-ended somebody and he turned the truck and the truck flipped over. The truck flipped over about three times and it started sliding on the side. So I just tucked my eyes and I started praying. I had hit my head on the windshield and I just started praying. And when I opened my eyes, he wasn't in the truck. So the truck is laying on the side. I was able to get out the sunroof, get out through the sunroof because the truck was on the side, and I got out. Luckily, I was in the middle of the highway where it's a whole lot of grass. So I'm walking in the grass, and I don't hear him. And I yelled I yelled out his name. And he said, "Yo, I'm down here." He was about a half a mile down the road in the grass. We both walked away that like God spared us. When we went the next day to get the truck from the people to get our stuff out the truck, the lady couldn't believe it was us because the truck was totaled. And God spared us that night. But I was so sick. I said, "Yo, we got to go harder because we almost died." That's how sick I was in the disease. So now the partying goes even more. We started going over to the Dominican Republic. We started partying over there, and then I started to feel sorry for my wife because I knew I was leaving the house all the time, and I knew I didn't want to stop. You know what I mean? So I go to her and tell her basically like trying to do the right thing. Like, listen, we're gonna separate and divorce, and when I get done doing all of this, I'll double back. And it seemed like it was a good plan. Part of her divorce thing was for her to for us to still see each other intimately and stuff like that. So me being a selfish, self-centered alcoholic, I'm thinking I got the best deal in town. And then September 14th, 2009, that's when my life changed forever. I called her in the morning like I usually do. She ain't answer the phone. And um, I got to work and they asked me have I heard from her because she ain't call out and she usually be in by now. And I said, no, I tried to call her this morning, she ain't answer. All I'm thinking about is we got a project that we got to do that day. So I'm like, yeah, if she called, let me know because we got this project to do. And so home over, they called me down to the office And they was like, we still haven't heard from her. We tried to call her a couple times and we worried about it. Do you mind going to check on her? So I said, yeah, but if she call me so I could turn around and come back. Her house was 20 something minutes away. So I jump in the car and I head down to Neptune and then I pull into the a complex. I'm on the phone with one of my friends. I pull into her complex and I feel relieved because I see her car, so I know she home. Now, I heard her friend call out when I went through the office, so I'm thinking maybe they just went out Sunday night and had too many to drink and too much to drink and this and that, blah blah blah. So that's all that's going through my head. I'm about to go in here, wake her up, tell her to get to go to work. So I tell my friend I'm gonna call him back. I go to the door, I knock on the door, no answer. Yelled out her name, no answer. And then I tried the doorknob, and the doorknob was open. And I went in, made a left, made another left, and then I found her on the floor in the bedroom. I checked her and stuff. Then I called 911. I don't know what's going on at the time. And the first responder comes and he tells me she's dead. I freak out. I just fall to my knees and I start screaming and stuff. And he was like, this looks like a crime scene. You got to get out of here. So he told me to leave, but I never forget when I was leaving out, he told me, be prepared because you're going to have to answer a lot of the same questions today. So I go out, I call my mom call her mom. I call the school to let them know what happened. And then I go over a crossing and I just sit on the curb. And then all these cars just started coming. I just see like the Neptune City police pull up. Then they put out all this yellow tape and all of this stuff. Then the prosecutors pull up. And then the prosecutors come over to me and they ask me, could they check my truck? And I didn't know it at the time, but I saw them put a light on in my truck. I didn't know at the time, but they was looking for blood in my truck. Then they
Right.
asked me, then they asked me, could they take my truck? So they took the truck, and now I'm sitting there, and then they was like, they then there's these three white Suburbans come from around the corner. They was either white or black, maybe black Suburbans. They came from around the corner, and then I just saw all these guys jump out with white suits on, covered from head to toe. And I later found out that was the forensic people. So then I'm looking at them go in, and it's look really, I'm just still sitting on the curb, and it's just looking like the first 48. The people from the school pull up, my family pull up, and then so then the prosecutors come over to me and they're like, we got to take you down to Neptune City Police Station to talk to you. So I go down to Neptune City Police Station and I sit there for like 50 minutes. Nobody talks to me. They say they got to take me around the corner to the prosecutor's office. So then I go to the prosecutor's office. I sit for another 50 minutes to an hour. And I later found out they were studying me on the tape because nobody came in to talk to me. So then once the hour was up, they came in and I talked to them for 2 hours. They was asking me all these questions about our relationship, this and that. I'm thinking I'm helping them, helping them, helping them. And once the interview was over, I gave him my DNA and all of that stuff. And when the interview was over, I thought I helped them and this and that. And then 2 days later, a newspaper article comes out. It says she was found. It didn't say who found her, but in the last paragraph, it says she was estranged from her husband and they worked at the same job and their divorce is supposed to be final October 6th. And that's when I found out I was the number one suspect in my wife's murder. At that time, I didn't know where to go, what to do. That was the first of many times in my life that during that time that I contemplated suicide. The three reasons I didn't do it was one, I didn't want to go to hell. Two, I didn't want to hurt my family and friends no more because they already was dealing with her. And three, I knew I didn't do it and I wanted to see it through. I knew if I killed myself that they would stop investigating. So now um, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I had a friend who was a lawyer that read the article and he called me. He was like, Mike, his name was Ron. He said, Mike, I'm gonna represent you pro bono because I know you didn't have nothing to do with this. So the first thing Ron did, he scheduled me a, 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 a media thing at the Asbury Park Press, a press conference. So we go down to the Asbury Park Press, do the press conference, and because he wanted people to get to know me because I was from Trenton, which was like an hour or something away. I'm not from Monmouth County, so these people down here don't really know me. So we go down, we had a press conference, and then once my job saw the press conference, they called me in, and they was like, so now when you're a teacher and you go in to see the administration, you're supposed to have your union rep with you. So I get to the administration building, I don't see my union rep, so I'm like, yo, like where's my union rep at? And they like, nah, just go in. So I go into the superintendent office. The union rep was already in there with the superintendent. They had a meeting before the meeting. And then when I sat down, both of them asked me to resign. So now I'm all startled. I'm going through all of this. They asking me to resign. And so I just called Ron. Ron came in and he threatened them. And then they was like, well, he just got to go home till we figure this out. So now I go home and my life just was stuck. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I went to therapy, but therapy couldn't help because every time I left therapy, the situation was ongoing. It took 6 years
Right.
for them. It took 6 years for them to figure out what happened to my
But wait a
wife.
minute, they didn't really figure out what happened, right? You
Yeah,
did, right?
yeah, yeah. Now I'm gonna get to that. So
Okay, because I was gonna say I like read some background before, but I feel like you did a lot of work.
yeah, yeah. So what happened was we had so then this 2009, 2013, I get a phone call from Ron, right? Ron said, Mike, I got bad news. And I'm like, what you mean you got bad news? He like, Mike, I got bad news. I'm thinking I'm about to go to jail. Ron said, Mike, I got brain cancer. And I'm like, what you mean you got brain cancer? He like, yeah, Mike, I got brain cancer. 6 months later, Ron dies. 2 days later, after his funeral, the prosecutors was knocking on my door. Ron told me don't never talk to them because they're gonna try to act like they're your friend, but their real job is to arrest you. So now my guardian angel going, I'm stressing this and that. Now around 2011, one of my friends, I was stressing. One of my friends had took me to the streets, and he had went to this gang member, and a gang member who went to the gang member was like, "Listen, man, my boy not from around here." It took me to Asbury Park, and he was like, he just want to know what happened to his wife. So then 2 days later, the gang member came and he told me what told me what happened, but he wouldn't give me no names or nothing. So what happened was, um, during that time, uh, the prosecutors wanted to see me again for the duct tape because they had found out about the duct tape. So when Ron took me in there to see them, they told me they knew I had went to see that guy. So the guy that gave me the information, he must was working for them because they knew that I had tried to get the information about my wife. So when you see the TV show and all like that, they dramatized it. They like switched everything around. It didn't happen. Like it didn't happen like the way they said it happened. You know what I'm saying? That part of it. You know what I mean? But so getting back to the story, so around 2015, this new detective gets on the case. His name's Scott Sammons. He got on around 2014, 15. Scott gets on, he calls me and he like, listen, man, I know what happened to your wife. I just need to talk to you. Now, since Ron gave me them instructions, it took me about a year to sit down and talk to Scott because I ain't trusting. So I finally sit down and talk to Scott. I had hired a lawyer and I met him out in Freehold. And Scott sat down and talked to me. He said, listen, Mike, I know what happened to your wife. Your wife lived next door to a drug dealer who had $15,000 in the freezer. The drug dealer girlfriend was at a party running her mouth about the money. Some guy heard her at the party. The guy hired some stick up boys to come rob the drug dealer, and they went to the wrong house. That's how your wife got killed. So he actually told me the same story that the guy told me on the street. So at this point, I'm torn because I'm happy that they know it's not me, but I'm sad she lost her life over this money. So now I'm like, at this point, I'm drinking a pint a day over a pint a day of alcohol because I'm home. And then when they let me back in school to work, I could come back to school, but I couldn't go into no schools. I couldn't be around no kids. So I had to work in the Board of Education office. The Board of Education office is right behind the school. So for the 6 years, I'm seeing all these kids growing up, but I can't talk to them. I can't say nothing to them. I just go to the building and I go home. You know what I'm saying? So then I said, you know what? Thanks for all of this stuff, but I need to go get some help. I need to get myself together. So I fly down to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I check in the Sunrise Detox. I check in the Sunrise 5 nights, and then I check in the Ocean Breeze Recovery. And when I checked in the Ocean Breeze Recovery, I went to a first couple meetings, and I made a near fatal mistake. I compared myself to the people instead of identifying with them. I heard this guy say he drank 1.75 liters. I knew that was a half gallon. Like I said, I'm drinking a pint a day. I'm like, I'm not like him. I heard this other guy say he drink hand sanitizers, hairspray, and all of this stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm not like him. And this other guy came up to me and was like, what's your morning rush? And I said, what you mean morning rush? He said, what you drink in the morning to get going? I said, man, I don't drink in the morning. And at that point, I cut off my ability to learn. I said, I'm only here to get therapy because my wife got murdered. I don't have a drinking problem. I didn't want to go to AA meetings. They was whack. I wanted to go to NA meetings because I wanted to hear the drug stories. I wanted to hear what the women was doing to get the drugs and this and that. I wanted to be entertained. And I had a tech named Chris that worked there. And Chris was shaking the chair in the group one day. And I said, Chris, why you shaking this chair like this? And he said, because I'm saving this seat for you, because you ain't do nothing while you was here. And when you come back, you're going to be drinking twice as much. And I laughed at him. I said, I ain't never coming back here. My cousin lived in Fort Lauderdale, and he came to pick me up on my last night. I was supposed to get out Saturday morning, but I told them to let me out Friday night. Like, I need to spend the night before I'm done. So they let me out, and my cousin came to pick me up, and he was like, bro, what you want to do? You want to fly out to tomorrow? So I was like, listen, man, I ain't really been around no girls like that. Let's go to the strip club. So I leave from the rehab, clothes in the car and everything, and go directly to a strip club. So of course I picked up a drink because I never paid attention. I didn't know what steps was. I never even opened the big book. None of that stuff. All I did in group was goof off and laugh and play. Because once I told myself that I ain't have no problem, and I knew I was getting married to my second wife that summer. So I knew I wasn't having no wedding without alcohol. So I already had my reservations and everything in my head. I had no intentions on not to stop drinking. I really told myself I didn't have a problem. So of course I drink at the strip club, this and that. I fly back to New Jersey. My second wife picks me up from the airport. She like, I got a surprise for you. I'm like, what's up? She said, I'm taking you to my homecoming. I knew she went to Delaware State. I'm like, Delaware State? She like, yeah. I'm like, now I know she don't know I was at the strip club. She definitely don't know I picked up a drink. But I know they're gonna have alcohol at this place. So now this is gonna be very interesting. So we get to the hotel and we walking down the hallway and I see a bar and I'm like, here we go. So as we go past the bar, she was like, I don't think you really gotta stop. You could be a social drinker. And I said, bet, sign me up. So now I'm drinking again, thinking everything's cool, drinking, not really noticing the uh 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 not really noticing no kind of change or anything like that. Not really noticing it like that. So I get a phone call from Red Bank first. Now we got the new school year coming on. We got a new union rep. New union rep calls me in. I'm like, what's up? She like, I gotta get you a lawyer. I'm like, what you mean? The case is over. They solved the case. She like, nah, I got to get you a union lawyer. I'm like, why? She said, you'll find out. The union lawyer comes in. He sits me down. He says, listen, they don't want you here. So what they're going to do is when you go into the classroom next year, because they're bringing you back, you've been out of class 6 years. So teaching changed. Like when I left, we still had textbooks and everything. Now, since 6 years later, we in Chromebooks and this and that. So he was like, what they're going to do is they're going to keep observing you and harassing you until you quit, even though you got tenure. He said, but I think that you went through too much, which you find that her, y'all worked at the same job. So I'm gonna take you to get evaluated in Trenton. So I was like, all right, bet. So then he was like, all right. So I go up to Trenton, take this test. You got to take this test 400 questions, and sometimes they ask you the same questions over and over again to see if you lying and this and that, blah blah blah, just different ways. So I take the test. Now it takes months for these results to come back. So I'm drinking, going home from there, drinking, alcohol starting to progress, starting to progress, starting to progress. Get a phone call from Scott. So I'm like, what's up, Scott? He like, Mike, I got bad news. I'm like, what you mean? I thought y'all, the rest of these dudes, I thought it was over. He said, yeah, but we're going to have to go to trial, bro. These guys don't want to take no deals. And you're going to have to testify since you're the one that found them. And the only way these guys could get off is their lawyers are going to have to say you the one that did it. So now I'm scared because I don't want to go up there and say nothing wrong. I don't know if they're going to dig up my partying history. I know it's their job to make me look bad. I just don't know what they know and what they're going to do. So now I'm stressing and stressing. And then, so my drinking is picking up. And then I get the notice from the people from the school. And they said, you have severe PTSD. We recommend that you retire. Now I got a choice. I could stay or I could retire. So I was like, all right, I got my basketball company money coming in and you giving me a check every month. So I'm going to retire. But I can remember walking down the hallway telling myself, you about to go under. Because I was already way past the pint. I was on my way to a fifth a day. And because I used to get off work, I used to be on my way home. I stop, get a pint, put it in a cup, drink it on the way home. Then I would get in Trenton, go to my friend's house and get another pint at his house and drink it, and then go in for the night. Now you telling me that I don't have to go nowhere? You just gonna send me a check every month? So now I started drinking like a gentleman. I started drinking at 2, then 2 went to 12, then 12 went to 10. Now I'm at the liquor store 9 o'clock in the morning. It took us 4 years to get to trial. So the whole situation took 10 years. So now we by the time we got to trial, I'm drinking more than a fifth a day. I'm starting to develop the shakes and stuff like that. And I always was a responsible person, like I said earlier. So a couple of days before the thing, I chilled out because I knew I had to testify. And then I went and testified. And this when God came into my life on my birthday, March 12th, 2019. The verdict came down in freehold. All 3 guys was guilty on all charges. Now, if you're an alcoholic like me, I thought God did that so I could party for like 6 months. I already had everything planned out. 2 weeks later, I told you I was already up to a fifth. My second wife had um threw me a party in Atlantic City for my birthday, and all her friends brought me all this Ciroc and all of this stuff, this and that. And that night I overdid it. And that was the first time I ever suffered the DTs. I was sitting next to one of my friends and I looked at him and I couldn't recognize him. He looked like a demon. I had never experienced nothing like that in my life. And I told myself after that night I wasn't gonna drink again. But when I woke up in the morning, I realized I couldn't stop. Now I'm drinking against my will. I'm going to all these different liquor stores. Every time I walk in the liquor store, they just putting the alcohol and Black and Milds on the counter. As soon as I walk in, I started feeling myself going crazy. I couldn't sleep. I started feeling my mind going crazy. And then one night I was just in the bed shaking and just restless. And my ex looked at me and said, "Do you want me to take you to crisis?" Because she had worked for DIFAS, so she knew the people in crisis. And I said, "No, I know what I got to do." And I went in the basement and I got on my knees and I prayed and I said, "God, either help me or take me." I knew I had to go back to rehab, but I didn't want to go to Florida because I didn't want to see Chris and all of them, even though it was 4 years later. So I flew across the country to like Malibu, Palm Springs, whatever springs over there in California. So I flew all the way over there and I went to the rehab and I looked in there and the rehab was whack. And I called my dad and my ex-wife and I asked her, told them, "Can I please come home?" Like they was like, "Nah, you got to go to Florida." So I get on the phone with the people from Florida. We do the negotiation. They say 50 days. I say 30 days. They say, you know how they do in rehabs and stuff. So they convinced me to fly back over to Florida. So I fly to Florida and I do Sunrise again 5 nights. And out of the desperation on the first night in Ocean Breeze, I opened the book for the first time. I had never opened the AA book before. So I'm reading. I can't understand doctor's opinion because it's like reading the Bible. I'm coming straight out of detox. I can't understand it. Bill's story was too old. I couldn't relate. But when I got to the chapter about more about alcoholism, um, I started reading all the things that we do to classify ourselves non-alcoholic. Only drink on the weekends, change from beer to wine, change from white liquor to dark liquor. I'm only gonna drink on holidays. And I immediately turned to the front of the book to see what year they wrote this book because I couldn't believe they was talking about me in this book. Then I got to the part of the chapter where the guy said he was 30 and he had a business. And he said alcohol was messing up his business. So now I got a business, so now he got my interest. And he said he's not gonna drink until he retire. This man waited 25 years to drink. He was 55 years old, 25 years sober. And they said he put on his slippers and he picked up a drink. And they said 4 months later he was in the hospital. 4 years later he was dead. The alcohol progressed in his body even when he wasn't drinking. And that's when I said, if I don't do something, I'm gonna die. Now I'm in front of clinical raising my hand. I'm going to 2, 3 meetings a day after class. I spent $650 on Uber in Florida going to meetings. I got with this group called Back to Basic. They take you through the steps in 4 weeks. They give you a sponsor and everything. So it's other people in my rehab was in the group too. So we go first 3 weeks. The first week, it's first week is easy. Yeah, I'm powerless. Yeah, I'm insane. I need God to help me. Yeah, I definitely turn my life over to God because I'm desperate at this point. So the first week was a breeze. Week 2 came around, we had step 4 and 5, and people in the rehab started quitting. So I go to my counselor, my sponsor, like, "Yo, why everybody quitting?" And he said, "You want to feel better?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You got to do it." And I put everything I had in the step 4. I wrote down my whole inventory. I did my fears, my sex inventory, my harms, and my resentments. Like for the first time in my life, I was totally honest about everything. And when I saw myself on the paper, I couldn't believe, like looking at me in black and white is different than rationalizing stuff in my head. I was like, yo, you're disgusting. Like this is crazy. So I had went to his house and I showed him step 4. And he looked at me, he said, "I think we ready." So we went and we did step 5. And I told this young white kid everything that I thought I would never tell anybody, stuff I thought I would take to the grave. And when I got done, I felt like this. Like I felt naked, I felt stripped because the ego and the pride was gone because somebody else knew everything about me. So then he said, "We got to pray. We got to pray for 3 things. We got to pray for God to forgive you, for God to um for God to forgive you, for God to make you a new person, and for God to give you strength to forgive yourself." And I looked at him and he said, "You got to forgive yourself. You were sick." So we prayed. And then when we got done praying, he said, "Now go sit somewhere for an hour and think about what we did." So I jumped into an Uber and I went back to my room. And I never forget, I was walking in my room, about to go lay down on the bed. And then this warm sensation just went through my body. And this voice came in my head and said, "All you have to do is serve me and you never got to worry about nothing else." And that was the first time and the only time in my life, all I wanted to do was serve God. I had never felt like that ever before in my life. Like it was like blinders came off my eyes and I could see the world spiritually. I could never see the world like that before. So I got on my knees and I was like, "God, why did you allow all of this to happen to me? For her to be murdered, for me to find her, for me to be the suspect, and then for me to be an alcoholic." So 2 days, a week or two later, it was time to coin out. That's when you tell your story in front of the whole rehab. So it was the first time I ever told my story. So I told the story and it was 150 people in there. Everybody froze. And it was like they was looking through me. And that's when it hit me that none of that stuff had anything to do with me. He allowed me to get through it so I could use my story to go help save people's lives. And on that day, I found my purpose in life. And they told me, don't never, when you go home, don't go chill with your wife, don't go see your friends. As soon as you get off the plane, go to a meeting. When I got off the plane, I told her to leave my keys in the mailbox, and I went directly to a meeting in Willenboro. I had to get a positive social life because once I retired, my social life was trash. All I did was hang out at strip clubs and casinos and mess with girls and do all of that stuff. So I was scared when I went back to Trenton because I'm still retired. So what I did was I went to 5 meetings a day. I went to a 6 o'clock or a 7. I went to a 9 o'clock. I went to a 12 o'clock. I went to a 4 or a 5, and I went to a 7 or 8 every day until I built a positive social life. I eventually got a job in recovery. I went through a divorce in recovery because I, I married her in the midst of this tragedy. I'm sitting in marriage counseling with her. Now, this is the first time I ever been sober since I've been with her. And I realized I didn't even really know her when she started talking, answering questions and stuff. I'm like, I can't believe I married this person. And it ain't nothing against her. I just couldn't never put no concentration into the situation. Um, and like I said, I had a job in recovery. I lost like 7 people during COVID. Kept going to meetings, started sponsoring people one day at a time. Now I got my job. Now I got remarried again with my wife, and we Israelites, non-radical. We love all races. We love everybody. We think everybody could get to the kingdom. Um, now we now I work out of rehab with kids. I'm at the rehab with kids, and I never thought I didn't want to do that. Like I went to that rehab to work with adults. Once I moved from down by Pennsylvania over here, I wanted to work with adults. So I get there, but I only could work for 7 to 3 because I want to still have my recovery after like go to my own meetings and everything. And I called, this job told me they didn't have 7 to 3 in adults. And I called like 12 other rehabs. It was no 7 to 3 for adults. The only 7 to 3 they had was for kids. So I go back there to speak again. And my current supervisor walked past and he like, "Yo, my kids could really use you, man." And that's when I knew God wanted me to be there. And it's like the best job I ever had. I love those kids and pouring back into them. And it just brought me full circle from when I was a student assistant counselor out of college. And now what I'm doing right now, driving vans, taking kids places, the same thing I did all those years ago. Um, and And I just lived this recovery thing. Like I said, I go do this ministry every Sunday night. I go in and talk to these, it's a rehab, they got 4 rooms. So each Sunday I go to a different room. And by the time I do all 4 rooms, a new group of people come into the rehab. So I do this every Sunday. And in closing is 2 reasons why I'm really, really dedicated to God. One is around 2011, Ron called me and I was going through it. Up to that point, I was praying hard for God to solve the case. And I remember Ron telling me, I've been doing this 30 years, Mike, you got to get used to this. Most of these cases, they don't solve. And at that point, I turned my back on God. And I went on all these dating sites, Plenty of Fish, Black People Meet, all of these dating sites. And I just used to get drunk and just fornicate with every woman I could be with. And I remember at first having a conscience. And then I remember not caring about what I was doing. And then I remember loving what I was doing because it helped me escape the instant gratification, helped me escape what I was dealing with. And at that point, I was working for the adversary, which is Satan. And I know that now. And if I would have died during any of that time, I was going to hell. And God reached down and grabbed me and pulled me out and was like, nah, I got something else for you to do. And he didn't have to do that because I was gone. And the second reason is I remember when I used to be out partying, I used to be in the Dominican Republic and I used to be partying and stuff. And my first wife used to tell me, like, you need to pick a side. You're always doing stuff you don't have no business doing, and then you feel bad about it, but you do it again. She was like, just choose one side. And I remember being over there and I'll be chilling and it'll be a girl in my room and I'll just go out by the pool, maybe like 2 a.m. And I'll just sit there and be like, what you doing with yourself? Like, you really think you having fun, but what you gonna do if you're 75, 80 years old and you're on your deathbed and you're thinking about your life? Yeah, you did the basketball thing, but you knew you was making money from that. But when it came to being a man, when it came to being a husband, you ain't stand for nothing. And I thought about sitting there and not having no time to change nothing. And I thought about how I would feel. And God gave me a chance to rewrite my life. So every day I wake up, I think about that. Like I gotta go rewrite my life. You know what I'm saying? So that's my story. I know it was kind of long-winded, but thanks for letting me share.
No, definitely. So I have a question for you. And I know you're remarried and super happy
Yeah,
and all that
yeah,
jazz. But when you think about like your ex-wife and her passing and all of that you went through, do you think like she's looking down on you and proud of everything that you've changed and done? Like
yeah,
the
yeah, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. Sometimes I gotta pinch myself. That's how I know, like, that God is real and the Holy Spirit is real. Because under my own mind and thoughts, I wasn't able to live this kind of life. I'm being guided by the Spirit. It's not me. Like the Spirit guides me and tells me what to do. And every day I pray for God to point me in the direction of somebody that I could help.
right. Oh, I
Um,
love that. Thank you so much for being here and telling your story. Of course, it's a story of like so much triumph, but like
mhm.
turning everything into something positive and making it be about God and about helping others is like something a lot of people don't ever get to, right? So that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Um, I just knew when that time when it hit me, and I always tell my clients this, especially because I do some stuff with the adults clients too at my job. Everybody gonna have a story, and you're gonna either do 2 things with your story. You're either gonna use it as a testimony to help others, or you're gonna use it as an excuse to destroy yourself.
Yeah,
Like that's the only options. That's the only options that we have with our stories.
that's it. So can you tell the people that are listening if they want to follow you, if they want to see
Oh
what you're
yeah, yeah.
how do we
You can
do all that? And what do you
you can
got going?
follow me at Soberheads on with a Z on TikTok. You can follow me, Mike Melton, on Facebook. I do a lot of my posting on there. I also have B-ball spotlight on Instagram because of my basketball company. You know what I mean? I faded out, but we do Sober Heads podcast on Thursday nights. And you could go to Sober Heads on YouTube, Sober Heads podcast on YouTube to see some of the episodes we had before. And for those out there that feel that you might be struggling, man, the best thing to do is surrender and put your faith in God and He'll do it. But we gotta go get the help, man. We gotta go get the help.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate you.